Army of Lovers, or Revolt of the Perverts, a film by Rosa von Braunheim, with the assistance of Mike Shepard. In America, there are an estimated 20 million homosexuals, male and female, old and young, yellow, brown, black, red, and white. They are a minority with little or no right to be openly gay. Most states enforce sodomy laws and other legislation against gays. Repression of homosexuals is nothing new. Its religious and political roots are thousands of years old. People are so used to it that even homosexuals themselves have learned to accept their place as somehow tainted and low. Self-hatred and a sense of impotence stops many gays from fighting for their rights. But the enormity of repression in America, in contradiction to an old promise of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, has led to a gay movement here unprecedented in history. To some, the movement is a revolt of perverts. To others, an army of lovers. It is, after the black movement and feminist liberation, the biggest civil rights movement in America today. A black person can't hide his color, but gays have learned the tricks of hiding their identity, often with the results of discovery, of violence, of punishment by law, of social abuse and isolation. Now, at last, gays want to come out of hiding, to demand their rights, to be free of discrimination and harassment, whether at work, in society, or at home. Still, today in our semi-liberal society, most people don't know what homosexual means. They hate and fear a stereotyped image linking evil, homosexuality, and crime. Coming out is the first important step we can take to free ourselves. The alternative to coming out is neurosis, or escape into inhuman commercialized sex ghettos, where we might feel relief for hours, but this relief only makes the return to hostile reality all the more painful. Gay men congregate in a warehouse at the docks of New York City, where the words "burn fags" greet them near the entrance. This is no empty sentiment. In New York and throughout the nation, punks hassle gays, beat them up, even kill them. Courts often treat these punks kindly, and police smile at their brutality. Despite the danger, gay people meet in darkness for short sex adventures in an exotic atmosphere, because here they remain anonymous. This hiding forces people into a cold, inhuman life, but we're more used to living in the shadows than loving in the open and fighting for our rights. In Atlanta, Georgia, in the center of the conservative American South, where the Klan and the churches are most influential, gay brothers and sisters meet at a gay conference. Courageous and full of love in the midst of hate and aggression, they take the love that dared not speak its name out of the darkness and bring it to the light of day. Hollywood stars such as Montgomery Clift and James Dean are forced to hide their homosexuality from the public. The pressure of a double life contributed to their self-destruction. Even if they lived today, Clift and Dean couldn't come out. Agents and studio bosses force stars into hiding, regardless of the fact that this policy leads to pain and the tragedy of broken lives. This look at the gay movement in America has been in production since 1971. It deals more with gay men than with lesbians because, as gay men, we are incompetent to deal with the full range of women's points of view. The lesbian movement must be dealt with by women. Two early figures for the gay movement are Gertrude Stein and her lover Alice B. Toklas, contemporaries of Magnus Hirschfeld. In the Berlin of the 20s, Hirschfeld was the first to make homosexuality a political issue until Hitler destroyed his life's work.
Dear darling Dr. Magnus, when the post arrived today, I decided that I had to come and see you right away. So darling Dr. Magnus, you have called and I am here to reveal the deepest feelings of a bona fide queer.
Let me banish all confusion, that is Magnus over there. I'm his lover and assistant, name of Carl. Please take a chair.
Name and occupation, please, we need the information. We are building up a dossier that will surprise the nation. It's a scientific miracle of logical deduction to prove the point that homo is no criminal corruption.
The object of of my work here in Berlin since the early years of the century has been to obtain the repeal of the statute outlawing homosexual acts between males and to oppose any attempt to extend that most oppressive law to include lesbians. I wish to publicly express my gratitude to the members of the Reichstag who are of the left, who have supported me in my work towards the penal reform bill. With their help, we are on the eve of our greatest victory. We must acknowledge our debt to our friends. Margaret Hirschfield, the Institute for Sexual Science, May 1929.
A gas chamber and a Star of David, that's what they used to kill the Jews. But a gas chamber and a pink triangle is how they slayed all of the gays.
The first political gay organization in America was the Mattachine Society. We met its founder, Harry Hay, in Los Angeles with his lover, John. As a communist, Hay was questioned under McCarthy's reign of terror. In the late 40s, Hay had the idea to organize gays. The Mattachine had up to 500 members, but the more people came, the more conservative the organization grew. It disbanded in '53 to be replaced by the homophile organization One. Hay told us of the beginning of the Mattachine.
Anyway, we get all very excited, and this bus goes on all night long. It's 3 o'clock in the morning, we all go home, and I'm so excited I can't see straight, and there's no point in going to bed, and I sit up and I write what amounts to the sort of the first manifesto. Based upon the thinking already, and this is in this period, 1948, we are in the period of the beginning of the McCarthy movement and the terror against the Hollywood 10 and the blacklisting and things that were going on all over the country, and the beginning of the smash of the CIO. And so we're already thinking in terms of fascism here in the United States. And I begin to realize that all of the groupings now have got defenders. The Jewish people, anti-Semitism is a thing of the past as far as the United States is concerned, and they don't have to worry any longer. The National Negro Congress has been held. NAACP is strong. There are the beginnings of Negro trade unions, so that they are not to be concerned. The scapegoat that the fascists will use in this country will be the gay. These will be the people, because we have no resistance, we have no organization, we don't know where we can be defeated. So consequently, talking about these things, I developed the whole idea of the planks that we would have to develop, and there would be a fight against fascism, that we would be the scapegoats. Therefore, we must begin to organize it, and we must think in these terms. So I've got a perfectly wonderful plan of action, and I haven't got any members. So I spend 2 years trying to find the members.
I'm Del Martin, and this is Phyllis Lyon, and we've been together for almost 25 years. We started, or were part of the group that started the Daughters of Bilitis in San Francisco in 1955, the first lesbian organization in the United States.
Well, I think that looking back over the situation starting from 1955 to the present date, it's rather an incredible picture of progress for gay people, even though oftentimes I think we don't think much is happening, and it's certainly not happening enough. Back in the 50s, hardly anybody knew that lesbians existed, and they didn't certainly know very much about gay men. In the 22 or so years, the movement has progressed from 3 organizations to numerous organizations around this country, to an openness that we never really dreamed would happen.
Well, and the other thing is that in that, those years, we certainly never dreamed that we would both be commissioners in the government of San Francisco, nor that we would be invited to the mayor's ball and that we could dance together there.
What does it mean to be a lesbian?
To be a lesbian is to be a woman-identified woman. We're no longer going to be identified by men, either gay or straight. We really have a sense of our own selves through the lesbian movement and through the women's movement.
Thank you.
Today they buried Judah Garland. There's rosemary for remembrance, pansies for thoughts, fennel and columbine. Come on, take it. Come on. Listen, I'll put it in your buttonhole.
Well, I was the manager at the Stonewall, and as you know, the New York City Police Department was being paid off. They were getting $1,200 a month bribe money to leave us alone. They got paid that night. That was on a Sunday, last Sunday of the month. And then they raided us. They raided us. And at this time when they raided, they started assaulting people and pushing people around. It's just the gay community took enough shit. We weren't going to take no more. And they fought back. That was the whole thing. And it was just the gays on one side and the police on the other. I see one kid, when I was fighting with the cop, when I had the handcuffs on me, she picked up dog shit and hit the cop in the face with dog shit. That was Bambi, little Bambi that's always up and down the street. We raised quite a bit of hell down here in the village. We gave the cops a hard time all week, that week.
In memory of the riots at the Stonewall Bar, gay marches take place in June of each year since 1970 in many American cities. Christopher Street in Greenwich Village became the gayest street in the world. Here, in the wake of the Stonewall, the Gay Liberation Front formed, the first militant gay organization. The short-lived left-wing group had a platform to fight for all oppressed people. GLF was followed by Gay Activists Alliance, founded in January 1970. GAA was interested only in gay issues, and it soon became the largest and most successful gay organization. Members of GAA marched into City Hall demanding a gay rights bill to bar discrimination in jobs and housing. A bill which, to the bitter disappointment of 1 million New York City gays, still does not exist as law. They forced politicians to declare publicly their stance on the gay issue. They organized against arbitrary police action and against the mafia, which controlled most gay businesses and exploited homosexuals. GAA held zaps and sit-ins against anti-gay employers and politicians and against hostile newspapers. Militant thousands were in the streets hand in passionate support of one another, but hostile and demanding to their enemies. Their battle cry was gay rights now. They refused to sit by quietly and wait politely for better times. STAR, Street Transvestites Action Revolutionaries, among the most oppressed members of the gay community, were the most courageous and provocative.
Inspired by the actions in New York, gay organizations formed throughout the nation. In '71, I filmed the second gay march, which ended in Central Park with gay brothers and sisters in an orgy of love and newfound pride.
of your closet. Come out, shed your doubt, come out and shout about who you are. Like a candle, you're hot to handle, but you burn with Ethereum light. The real you inside no longer can hide, like a bird you're about to take flight. So come out, like the sun in the morning. Come out, spread your wings and fly. Oh, come out, the patriarch's dying. With his lies, he tries to minimize the cries and the tears. Like a fire, you burn with desire, and your hopes are getting higher each day. Like an eagle in flight, like a cosmic kite, you can shine, you can light up the way. So come out, all your bridges are burning. Come out, I think you've taken enough. Oh, come out, I can tell that you're yearning. Shed your fear, it ain't queer to get near to the one that you love.
Biology professor Bruce Veller left his wife and 3 children and came to New York in the early 70s. He became a radical gay and in 73 was elected president of GAA. Already at this time, radicalism was dying, and in 74 Veller left GAA to form the National Gay Task Force, a conservative, elitist organization which has grown to 8,000 members, now the largest political gay organization. Decisions are made by a small circle of gays. By drinking tea in the White House, attending cocktail parties, and showing a willingness to compromise. NGTF hopes for legal changes in favor of gays. In 1974, the GAA Firehouse, the seminal gay meeting place in New York City, burned down. Tired of fighting and struggling, gays disappeared into discos, baths, and orgy bars. The leading lesbian of NGTF is Jean O'Leary, an ex-nun. She also belonged to GAA, but left with other lesbians to form their own organization. Now, lesbians are again joining coalitions with gay men.
There's 2,000 gay groups in the country, and I'd say probably a little less than 500 would be women's organizations, and they form from all different kinds of ways. But if you're really talking about power and making some changes, you've got to talk about building coalitions, working together, thinking about the financial aspects as well as the political aspects. Some of the lesbian separatists would never think of putting on some of the type of clothes that I have to put on to go lobby Congress. That's the compromise. There's compromise. Politics is all compromise, and that's how changes are made. I can come in here to my office and pick up the phone and dial it and make changes. And whereas at GAA, I had to go to meetings after meetings after meetings where resolutions were passed, and you know, it's good for the morale, I guess, and it's good for community organizing and building a community. It's good for demonstrations and the social aspects of it. But to tell you the truth, I haven't seen much more than that come out of some of the local organizations.
I came into GAA last November, and basically what we've been having to do is be the watchdogs of the movement to make sure that brothers and sisters in this city understand that democratic promises are not going to take place for lesbians and gay people. And from past experience with my dabbling in democratic politics years ago, and knowing these same brothers and sisters who were once Gay Activist Alliance members years ago, I know that it's bullshit and it's not the truth. It won't happen. People have to get back into the streets and demonstrate en masse and have to fight and demand their rights and not beg for them through a Democratic Party. So we have to be in the streets and let people know. The lesbian and gay population in New York City think they're liberated. They have bars, they have ghettos, they have Christopher Street, and I don't believe it's so. The right wing is really mobilizing itself. I think everybody has to be active. I think if they're not going to be active, they're going to be the victims of those who are active, and that's the right wing again. I don't think there's really any choice left. But people, unfortunately, I don't think have been oppressed enough. I think they have to be oppressed more to understand that they're going to be witch-hunted out. We're told to be respectable gays, and I don't buy that shit. respectable. You know, what's respectable? You know, following a straight image and wearing a tie and being gay or being lesbian and not talking about it. You know, it's just staying in the closet enough to make straight people comfortable. Well, I object to that. I want to walk down the street with my lover holding his hand, as I do. People are too frightened to take a very, very good look at it and say, yes, we are oppressed. They're willing to go along with the little bits of shit that they get, like Christopher Street and the discos. And it's not enough for me, and it's not enough for a number of people in the movement who are lesbian and gay people who are not satisfied with little bits that they eke out to us that they call freedom.
Charlie, it's all in your mind. I mean, the bars are what you bring to them.
Of course, I'd jump up in an instant if I thought I were going to find romance or love or something like that.
Well, I usually find something like that. And we do it there, or we go home, and I have a good time.
Somewhere out there, there's a man, strong, silent, alone, waiting. It's my humanitarian duty to find him.
I am so bored with men who look like they have not had an emotion in 6 months.
Good boy.
I mean, you can go to that kind of bar if you want to. I want to go dancing. So, do we have everything?
Money.
I do.
Dope.
Slugs.
Keys.
KY.
Handcuffs.
Poppers.
Acid.
THC.
Loose joints.
Loose morals.
Let's go.
City of Night. Here we come. We made a decision very early in the play that we didn't want to specifically criticize gay people a lot, because then the play could be seen as anti-gay, and we didn't really want to do that. But we did have a certain perspective on the current gay subculture, you know, that it was alienating and isolating and ultimately sort of boring and involving poses and, you know, and that we really wanted to present, you know, and often just for ourselves, to help us think more clearly about what this post-Stonewall gay culture has turned into, you know, because it certainly turned into something that none of us thought it would in those first early days. You know, it never occurred to anyone that the thing we would get from the revolution would be 700 leather bars and the right to serve in the army. You know, that wasn't exactly what we had in mind when this whole thing started, so. But we never thought very clearly about what the alternatives would be.
Queer, cocksucker, pansy,
Please, now be calm. Please give us your name and address for the record.
Anita Bryant Green. I've been a resident of Florida for 16 years. I live at 4682 North Bay Road, Miami Beach. I'm really speaking to you today not just as an entertainer who has worked with homosexuals all my life. And I have never discriminated against them. I have had the policy of live and let live as long as they did not discriminate against me. I'm a wife and a mother, and I especially address you today as a mother. I believe I have a God-given right to be jealous for the moral environment for my children. I remind you that God who made us, he could have made us like the sea turtle who comes in the dark of night and buries her eggs in the sand and then never cares about her offsprings again. God could have made us this way, but he created us so that our children would be dependent on their parents for their lives. And I, for one, will do everything in my power as a citizen, as a person, and especially as a mother, to ensure that they have that right to a healthy and a morally good life. I just wonder, just when did the word discrimination start meaning that I, as a citizen, and as one of your constituents, cannot say no, or that the people of Dade County can't say no in the area of housing, employment, and education? I believe I have that right, that I can and do say no to a very serious moral issue that would violate my rights and the rights of all the decent and morally upstanding citizens, regardless of their race or religion. I believe that I represent many people.
'Cause you are my lucky star, Ginger Rogers. I saw you from afar. Those oranges from my trees, I hope you see. Squeeze them, 'cause they're so juicy.
Homosexuality, God puts it in the same category as murderers, thieves, prostitution, and if we give special privileges to homosexuals, then we have to give it to the murderer, to the thief, and to the prostitute.
Not only homosexuals, but for drug addicts, for the fact that America has 1 million runaways, and there are a lot of families that have a lot of marital problems, and no cases, no evidence on discrimination at all. And it applied to...
Security agent, security agent.
No, let him stay.
No.
Let him stay.
Well, at
Let's
least
see.
it's a fruit pie. Huh.
Let's pray for him right now. Anita, let's pray. Anita, why don't you pray? That's all right.
Father, we want to thank you for the opportunity of coming to Des Moines. And Father, I want to ask that you forgive him,
That we love him.
and that we love him, and that we're praying for him to be delivered from his deviant lifestyle, Father. And I just...
We forgive you, and we love you.
Anita Bryant and her anti-gay campaign was an overnight sensation, drawing first-rate news coverage. Apathetic and non-political gays were shaken from their lethargy as the slogan became "Fight Back." Gay leaders called Anita the best thing that could have happened as thousands of closets were deserted. Gay people realized that a conservative profile is no protection. Organization mobilized like never before against the right wing and the Bible fanatics. Anita's vicious campaign raged like fire across America. After Miami, St. Paul, Wichita, and Eugene, Oregon smashed gay rights bills, even as bigots in other states framed more radical anti-gay legislation.
And help us all to win what is our right as citizens of this country. Thank you.
The reason why, hold on. The reason why we're here tonight is that last night, Wichita, Kansas defeated a gay rights bill 5-1. 2 weeks ago, St. Paul defeated a gay rights bill 2-1. Last year, Dade County defeated a bill 2-1. This city has no bill. 9 years ago, when we fought back at the Stonewall, we fought back to keep places like this open. There are bar people out here. There are no enemies. We are asking for brothers and sisters to march, to tell New York City we demand our rights. Come on.
Out of the bar and into the streets. 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 Out of the bar and into the streets.
to the streets!
My name is Sarah Montgomery. I began to know that I would fight for gay rights when my son, at 35, told me he was gay. I have been with parents of gays for 5 years, but previously to that, I had, the minute my son told me he was gay, I went out fighting by myself. I felt for a long while I was the only mother in all of New York City because I told all my friends and all my family at once. It is true that my son and his lover, at 46 and 48, when they lost their jobs, after they came out and bought a house to be near my son's children, they lost their jobs and that they had had so much persecution all their lives, they went in the garage, sealed it, and killed themselves together. Before that, however, I had been fighting 10 years beside my son. I lived with my son and his lover. I saw gay love. There is absolutely nothing wrong with being gay. I will fight. I will be 80 years old next month. And I am going to continue this fight because as long as one gay person can be persecuted, all gay people can be persecuted. Now, bigotry has always rested on ignorance. And my heroes today are the vast numbers of courageous, brave, young gay people who are marching in the streets and saying openly and honestly, no more persecution, no more closets, no more lying. Now, when a religious person says, be gay if you must, but never speak of it, how terrible, how immoral that is. To tell a person, if you will lie and lead a double life, you can have your God, your family, and your job. But if you dare to be an honest American citizen, just exactly as you are, then you may stand a chance of losing all three. Now, my child lost his life, it's true, through the persecution. But before that, it was the closet when we talked many long hours, and I straightened out many things I had never understood in his life. It was the closet that did the damage, the double life, the life of deceit and lies. It is a wicked thing to tell human beings there is something wrong with them just because of their sexual orientation. Now, the parents of gays, we have grown from about 6 members to now we have meetings of 50. We give most of our time in our meetings to the parents who have just found out their child was gay. They have the right to speak to us, to ask us questions. The gay movement will continue to grow, and we parents will grow with it.
Michael, you belong to an organization for blind gay people. Could you explain us exactly what you're doing?
Yes, the name of our organization is the Gay and Lesbian Blind, and it's the first organization of its kind, I believe, in the world, and definitely in the United States. And our aim is to help get blind people into the gay community. Now, as many people probably know, the blind community itself is a very isolated community, just even for a straight blind person. But for a gay blind person, it's even worse. I started noticing I was different at the age of 12. I noticed like other boys in school, because I went to this residential school for the blind up in the Bronx. And other boys would be talking about their girlfriends and how they had a certain girl that they liked or something, and I couldn't relate to it at all. I had no interest. And people would ask me, do you have a girlfriend? I would say, well, and I said, I'm just not interested. They said, don't worry, by the time you're 15, you'll be interested. They figured I was just a late starter. But by the time I was 15, I knew I was gay, and I knew it wasn't any phase that I was going through. I definitely had desires for other boys and for men too. And growing up in a school for the blind, first of all, most blind people are considered by the sighted world to be asexual, like they don't have any sexual interests. Of course, this is not true. Blind people have sexual interests just like any other person.
My name is Sally Michael Fisher. I was born in New York, born in Harlem, of course, and I'm a native New Yorker. I acknowledged that I was gay at 13. When I grew up among my friends and experiences at camp, I always knew that I liked men, or I was attracted to boys. Well, I didn't actually tell people until I was 15, because I know it was a highly stigmatized thing. But I told friends, and certain people knew, like my oldest brother is gay, so it was no problem. I didn't even have to tell my father I was gay, because, I mean, he picked up the vibes. I mean, he used to go out with drag queens, so he was a street man, and he was very hip to where I was coming from. And he just asked me one day when I was 15, he says, do you like women? I told him, yeah. Do you like men? I said, yes, too. So he says, well, that's cool. That's all right, man. You know, I just wanted to know where you was coming from. So there was no problem as far as family. To be gay in Harlem, you had to, as far as I feel now, being that I've been through it and being gay in the Bronx in New York City, it's very oppressive from my point of view. But at the time I was in it, I thought maybe that was the only gay life that existed.
My name is Rainbow Silverfire. I belong to a group of third world gay men called the Tri-Base Collective. For me, it's to find out and to share other third world people's experiences in the gay community, because I personally find a lot of racism in the gay community. Even if it's not on the blatant level, there's all types of levels. There's the level where people figure that I come from a primitive people, and so that they sort of have to explain things to me very carefully all the time. I come from a people where gay is respected. Gay is an accepted way of life. The philosophy among my people is that the more unique a person is, the more unique is their vision, and the more unique and valuable their contribution to the society. I come from a society where we try to find what every single human being has to offer. And if we go turning away everyone who we don't understand or we can't figure out where they're coming from, then we realize we're not going to grow as a society. We're not going to be able to live in harmony. There are gay shamans, gay medicine men, still living today in the United States, in Arizona, in Utah, in New Mexico, Nevada, all the way from Alaska down to South America. There are entire communities where gay men live together. There are lesbian communities. There are bisexual marriages.
A third world gay first feels solidarity with his own race and culture, then with gays. Experience has taught them that often white bourgeois gays are as racist and repressive to them as members of the straight white society. Their struggle is especially difficult because macho and anti-gay cultures are strong in Latin America as well as Asia and Africa.
Hi, Carolyn. May I speak with you for a minute? Yes. There seems to be as many different types of lesbians here as there are groups. Why isn't there one large lesbian group instead of all these small ones? Wouldn't they have more strength if there was one big group?
Yeah, I think if we had one large lesbian group, it would be a real paradise. Yeah. But I think the issues that lesbians are interested in, ranging from lesbian separatism, women who want nothing to do with men at all, and as little to do with the patriarchal structure as possible, to women who are perfectly happy to work within the establishment structure, make it impossible for us to come together in any real sense of directing all lesbians' energy in one direction. For instance, just marching in this parade, I'm not happy doing it. I don't enjoy making a spectacle of myself. But as we move ahead in the gay and lesbian movement, it's very important that lesbians be visible. And to me, that makes this day of walking and sweating and putting up with a lot of trash from the men an important symbolic step forward for us.
Lesbians waged a long, hard fight to become part of the women's movement. Even radical women feared the homosexual issue. Lesbianism is finally accepted by the feminist movement because the lesbians' fight is first against their repression as women and second as lesbians. Lesbians joined early gay men's groups, but found that gay men are as sexist as straight men, so they split off to form their own organizations. Gay women have less power, fewer opportunities, and less economic independence than gay men. Lesbians are often forced into marriage, and in divorces, courts take away the children they love. Lesbians have fewer meeting places than gay men and don't relate sexually as superficially. It's been harder for homosexual women to come out, to find self-confidence and pride as women and as lesbians.
With great pride and great pleasure and with great humility that I bring to you Grace Jones!
Lesbian feminism is not the same as being gay. Being a lesbian is not the same as being gay. Now, a lesbian is a woman without a man, and here we are marching in a parade with men. Now, these men claim that they're our brothers. I don't consider them my brothers because they're very sexist, they're very hostile to what we need. I find gay men to be just like straight men. They have a tendency to want women to do things for them, to service them, to give them an image, to validate their existence. I'm not terribly sure that it should be incumbent upon women to make you understand the feminist issue. I think if you, not you individually, but you and other gay men and straight men would just get off our backs, allow us to be human beings in our own right, stop trying to get us to service you and your ego, stop trying to have us treat you and nurture you like sons, and we should be your mothers. Men always seem to zero in on sexuality. Women do not zero in mainly on sexuality. They zero in on emotions, on psychic power, on identity, on individualism, on womanhood, on personhood, everything but sexuality. That comes last.
It's kind of strange how gay men are so intrigued by role-playing. Either, I mean, want to be more straight and more masculine than heterosexual men, and on the other hand, how gay men see women. They just see them as caricatures, and they see them as a kind of sex object in a very kind of ugly way. And I see it myself. Like today, Grace Jones. I was intrigued by her. In a way. Why is that?
It's not that I don't blame you for being intrigued by her. I can understand your intrigue. You're a man, first of all, and you're conditioned to feel that a woman is there for your pleasure, no matter how she has to make herself look, no matter how ridiculous she is, no matter how much of a sexual object she has to appear. It sort of feeds into your male pride that she's doing this for you. She's doing this to what? To make you feel good sexually? okay? I was horrified. I was absolutely livid. I was in a rage. I spoke to the committee about it. They claimed they couldn't do anything about it. I felt I was at a smoker of straight men who had a prostitute, hustler, whatever word you'd like to use, pop out of a cake to do some sexual gyration so they can get their rocks off. I mean, they objectify a woman. She has to be up there so they can look at each other and get titillated by what she's doing. And they're very, very contemptuous of her. I heard some remarks about, she's a bitch and she's this, that, and the other, and then people applauded her at the same time. So it's a kind of contradiction in terms. They want her to do this terrible thing to herself, and they hate her for doing it. So gay men are just like straight men. All they were doing was sexist, misogynist things. That woman, Grace Jones, should not have been on that stage. She should not have been permitted to set foot on that stage. She insulted every woman that was there. And that's what men like. They like to insult women, because that's all they know. All they know is contempt for women. That's all they've been taught.
As a man, I was educated to repress women, to see in them what I want. As a gay man, I love to be admired by soft, tender women, and I love their company. I prefer them to straight men who are less understanding and often afraid of gays. I have never liked lesbians. I feel threatened by their strength and demands and self-awareness. I feel their criticism and hostility for men. Now I have learned that lesbians have to struggle hard against a society in which they are doubly repressed, as women and as lesbians. But does this knowledge change me? As a gay man, I'm still a man who learned to repress his feelings, who has to show his sex with all his potency, who learned not to care in order to get what he wants. How often I have looked for tenderness and warmth which I myself wasn't able to give. We gay men should be willing to question our masculinity, but instead what do we see? Homosexuals trying to be more masculine than straight men. I know that my knowledge of the women's struggle is not enough to change me. Too long I have been prejudiced to accept women as strong and equal. I can't help but still admire aggressive, powerful, emotionless men. When will we learn to accept our weakness and let our feelings show? I can hide them as easily in the bushes of Central Park as in the Hollywood Hills.
To who they're fucking in a movie. My personal opinion and my personal work would say no. It's irrelevant. When you're a gay porno star acting in a gay movie, I think if you're good, you have to be ruled by your head. Of course, I'm a club, as I just went into. My head rules me. My thinking rules me more than my emotion. It's an emotional thing, fucking. But in terms of movies, I view it intellectually and not emotionally. And I construct an elaborate fantasy that'll get me off, and I'm not concerned about who I'm with. I don't care how many people are in the production. You know, it sounds hard, it sounds cold, but it's like a business with me. I have always wanted to be a porno star. I always wanted to be a star. I am the biggest porno star, and I will be a legitimate star. And it's like work. It's vanity. I get my face on magazines and stuff. That's fine. But I'm very thought out about it. I like to smoke a joint before I work out. I'll work out, keep my body going, and then I'll think about the whole porno star business. And I'll position myself, I'll talk to people, I'll do anything I have to do. I've always been out. There's been no problem with me about being a faggot around town. It doesn't bother me. I think I'm better than any of these fucking straight people around and more masculine. Never gotten worried about that. I always had a problem with being an S&M'er. I was an open gay but a closet S&M'er. The thing is to get it out, be an open pervert, and not be ashamed of that. I think I've had an enormous influence on the style and fashion of gay America. And I think that's good. Gay America needed to get out of the whole swish sweet thing that it was into when I started my stuff. When LA Plaza first opened, it caused big shockwaves all across gay America. But since then, it's been picked up easily as fashion and as wear your jackets and wear your chains, and which I think is a good thing.
Why do you think you personally are interested in S&M? Do you have an explanation for
I like it.
As a gay person?
I like it. I like it both sides. I like to be beat up. I like to beat other people up. I like all kinds of perversions.
Why
With my work, I like to express that. I think that one of the great values of media, if you can express dissident ideas, get them on the screen, people see them. They don't have to be into the trip at all. Forever after that, they'll be more open. I think there's a purpose and a reason, a positive reason. To get perversions out, I think they shouldn't be particularly flaunted like... There'll always be a small minority, but they should not be crushed as they have been throughout history. It's too important. Sex is too important to people. It's more important than if they vote for a Democrat or Republican, or Carter or Ford. I think it's more important than that.
My name is Russell Vey. I'm the director of the National Socialist League in Los Angeles, and our group was founded January 1st, 1974, for the political, spiritual, and racial awakening of our people.
How many gay Nazis are in America?
Not enough. Not enough.
Do you have meetings?
Let me say that we are not gay Nazis. We believe that what people do in bed has no bearing whatsoever on their accomplishments or what they can do politically and racially for their country.
How about your political point of view? Could you be more explicit what you stand for?
Well, we believe that the two-party system is wrong. When the Democrats are in power, everyone says the Democrats screwed it up. When the Republicans are in power, the people say, well, they're messing it up. What we need is a third party, an American Nazi party, to bring about the idea that the immigration in this country from South America and from Taiwan and these yellow nations has got to stop. The American people should come first before any other nation. And if Israel wants to throw us into a third world war at the same time causing a gas shortage, I think the American people should realize that Israel is not our friend, the Arabs are our friends, and they have the oil. They're the ones we should be dealing with.
Would you put up concentration camps? Would you gas Jew people if you would be in power?
I don't believe in the concentration camp theory, but there has got to be someday a final solution to the Jewish problem. I don't know how that would ever be dealt with. It won't happen for many years. I probably won't be alive, but someday there has to be a reckoning.
How about what Hitler did? I mean, gas jamming Jews.
Well, I don't believe he gassed Jews. I think that's a lie. If it did happen, the Nazi Party was making Europe safe for Western Christianity. If those things did happen. I've seen too many doctored photographs when you see a boxcar full of bodies, come to find out these bodies weren't Jewish, they were dead from Dresden or Berlin.
What's the reaction from the gay community in the United States towards you and your party?
Well, it hasn't been favorable because mainly our attack has been at them. Most of them, not all of them, most of them are open socialists, communists, Bolsheviks, anarchists, and simply by saying that they represent the gay community, they have done so by default, and that has got to stop. They do not represent the gay community. We represent the gay community, the white, conservative, middle-class male. There's nothing in Mein Kampf that says anything against homosexuals, and in the Third Reich under Adolf Hitler, the founder of National Socialism, he had many homosexuals around him. It's just that those homosexuals weren't blatant about it. They weren't marching up and down the streets, flaunting it in people's faces. They were National Socialists first and gays second. I joined the Nazi Party in 1969 and again became thoroughly disgusted with it. Then I started a straight, if you want to call it that, a patriotic group called the American White Nationalist Party. It went very well. We had strong connections with the Klan, the Minutemen, and then in 1974, January the 1st, I started the National Socialist League. because I was not the only gay Nazi in the country. There were other ones. So all by myself, I just started putting ads in papers and said, Nazi anyone, and I started getting letters from other people, and that's how we got started.
Isn't it a kind of contradiction to be gay and Nazi?
No more contradictory than to be gay and a Christian.
God the Father, God the Son, God the Holy Ghost, bless, preserve, and keep you. The Lord merciful with his favor look upon you, and fill you with all spiritual benediction and grace, that you may so live together in this life, that in the world to come you might have life everlasting. Forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, now and forevermore.
In Hollywood, hundreds of gays honored Reverend Troy Perry with a benefit dinner. Perry founded the first gay church, the Metropolitan Community Church, now the largest gay organization in the world.
We're the largest organization is having an outreach into the gay community. We consider ourselves a Christian church, not a gay church. We're gay only in the connotation if you look and say that's a black church, meaning that the majority of the people who attend are black. But we have now 121 churches in 7 countries, 6 outside of the U.S., and a little over 25,000 members internationally at this point. There's a contradiction in the churches outside of my own, in that they haven't done their homework. If they'd have done their evangelism, they wouldn't have the problems that they're now going through with today in the whole discussion of should homosexuals be in the ministry of the Christian church. It's not a contradiction, though, as far as our church is concerned, in that there is a need. With gay people, I sometimes say I'm surprised that we get any gay person in church, because the church has been one of the main oppressors of gay people. But gay people, I've learned the world over, like everybody else. Some of them are raised in church and some aren't. And those people who have a need for a church are going to look for a church. And I think that's been the success, is that we've not only been just church services, but we have been willing also to involve ourselves in what we call Christian social action, and that is to move out and to see that laws are changed in this country that are oppressive to gay men and women.
Since Troy Perry's beginning with MCC, many other gay churches sprang up. Dignity is a Catholic group. Among others are gay synagogues, gay Quakers, and now an independent gay Catholic church which elects its own bishops and cardinals. In San Francisco, gays demonstrated against the Catholic Church when it came out in support of Anita Bryant. Angry gays tell Sunday morning churchgoers of the need to truly separate church and state.
I'm gay, and I make no bones about it. And there are thousands of priests that are ministers from different faiths as well. But I don't believe that the church has the right to demand by body politic a way of lifestyle that doesn't conform with their attitude. The Bible's been misused all too often in the name of freedom. And this is one time that they're demonstrating in a way to show that.
We shall overcome someday. Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe that we shall overcome someday. Shall overcome.
I expect people to keep their mouths shut.
Right.
People are angry. The church is responsible for denying us our rights, and we cannot stand by silently.
You're too liberal, hon.
2, 4, 6, 8.
Separate the church and state. 2, 4, 6, 8. Separate the church and state.
When Anita Bryant won her battle against gays in Florida, 250,000 allies of the gay movement gathered in protest in the streets of San Francisco. The demonstration was overshadowed by the death of Robert Hillsborough, a gay gardener murdered while on his way home from a gay bar. With the cry, "One for Anita," 4 punks stabbed Robert to death. He became the martyr of the biggest gay demonstration the world has ever seen.
All you downtrodden people always bear the brunt. Just sit back on your backside till you have to face the front. Wait till the bullet balls get you. Don't make no kind of sense. Pretty soon there's gonna be no room for sitting on the bench. Better decide which side you're on. Shit goes down before too long. If left is right, then right is wrong. You better decide which side you're on. Too bad for the gay revolution. This is as far as you get. And if you think you're free, well, listen to me. You ain't seen nothing yet. All gonna feel the backlash of puritanical power. Kicking us down when we're on the ground. Gonna be their finest hour. Better decide which side you're on. The ship goes down before too long. If left is right, then right is wrong. You better decide which side you're on. Too late, you trendy thinkers. Your time is running out. No more time to wonder why. No more time for doubt. Chosen freedom, White House. They're out to get your guts. Better decide which side you're on. Get those damn butts. Too bad for the great revolution. This is as far as you get. And if you think you're free, well, listen to me. You ain't seen nothing yet. All gonna feel a backlash. Puritanical power. Treading us down when we're in the ground's gonna be their finest hour. Better decide which side you're on. The ship goes down before too long. Left is right and right is wrong. You better decide which side you're on. You better decide which side you're on. The ship goes down before too long. If left is right, then right is wrong. You better decide which side you're on. Oh yeah!
Hi, what's your name?
Sally Walker.
And you live in San Francisco?
Yes, sir.
And this gentleman you're with, do you live together?
Yes.
Of course we do. Why not? Well, I have no objections. So you're straight?
Yes.
And you were telling me that you have 2 sons.
Yes. They're also straight.
They're also straight. Why are you here today?
Well, your sex life is really none of my concern. But human rights are my concern. What happens to you happens to me tomorrow.
This is Nancy Roth and Judd Cole from Save Our Human Rights. And Nancy, can you tell me about the involvement of Save Our Human Rights in the parade?
Well, we are attempting not to make a carnival festive showing. We're trying to make a moderate conservative editorial comment on our presence and just our simple statement that we as gays deserve our human rights. And that's what our group is attempting to show.
Hi, what's your name?
Manuel Aguilar.
Manuel Aguilar?
Right.
How long have you been in San Francisco?
Oh, since 1934.
34. You've seen a lot of gay action, a lot of gay activity in San
That's
Francisco?
right. Yes, I have.
Can you tell me what the general attitude of the police force is?
They enjoy it, I'll tell you that.
They're enjoying it?
Oh, yes. That's the main
good.
thing, yeah.
Have you been involved in the parades a lot?
Pardon?
Have you been involved in the parades a lot?
No, I haven't. Just, doing my duty, that's all,
Is this the first parade you've been involved in?
No, I've done quite a few gay parades.
What do you think about the parades themselves?
Oh, I like them.
You like them?
Yeah, that's why I'm here.
Why am I here? For the gay parade, for Gay Day.
What do you think about it?
I think it's great. It's beautiful.
What are you going to do tomorrow?
What am I going to do tomorrow? I'm going to babysit.
Oh, my name is Byrne.
What are you doing here today?
Enjoying everybody to have their human right. Do your own thing. If you love it, baby, so do I. Because I've always done mine, gonna continue.
Yay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I belong to the 504 Emergency Coalition, and that was a disabled coalition that occupied the federal building across the way here. And when we were in there, we got a great deal of support from the gay community. So we're out here in solidarity with the gay community.
Are you going to continue?
Sure.
Thank you.
In this society, when one group is oppressed, all of us, to some extent, suffer a part of that oppression or can't be free. And if it happens to one group, it can happen to any other group. As a woman, I identify very strongly, in general, with the gay rights movement.
I agree with everything.
Thank you very much. Do you guys live together?
Yeah.
Intimately?
Yes.
How do you feel about it?
Love it.
Do your parents love it?
Yeah.
Oh, great. That's good to hear. Why are you here today?
We're for equal rights and freedom for gays.
Do you belong to any other organizations?
No.
No. Are you going to?
I'm not sure. We'll look into them. I'm not a group person.
You too?
No, we're not group people. We'll stand up for anything that we feel we have to.
What are you doing here today?
I believe in human rights and the gay liberation principle of freedom and equality for all, regardless of their background.
Did you march in the parade today?
Yes. Yes.
You did? Gosh, you don't look it. Look like you've been here for years.
We have. We have.
Are you members of any active gay organization?
No. No. No.
And do you foresee getting active?
I think I send enough feelings out towards everything, which I feel in myself it's very high, you know. And I can do a lot more for just sending good vibes out rather than putting a lot of negative energy out, you know. And all I can do is just be with it and give it a lot of love, you know. And it's a part of me, and I feel good about it, so I feel good about what's going to happen.
In 1977, I was asked to teach film at the San Francisco Art Institute. I taught a production class, and for the film my students made, I chose the theme of homosexuality. I presented myself and my private life as a study. In one of the first classes, I asked my students to film me as I showed them exactly what gay sex is. As a partner, I invited Glenn, a model I had seen in a porno movie. I think it's very important to make private life public. Prejudice comes from ignorance, from rumor, from anxiety, before the unknown. If we want people's attitudes towards sex to change, we have to demystify it and face the simple truth about sex courageously. The performance left my students speechless, but I enjoyed it very much.
San Francisco is the world's gayest city. In the mid-1800s, it was a pleasure city for the gold miners. In the 1960s, a mecca for the flower children. The city's tradition has produced an atmosphere which seems open to everything. Gays from all over the country have come to build the biggest gay ghetto in America. In San Francisco, Allen Ginsberg and the Beat Generation made homosexuality public. Now there are gay policemen, openly gay politicians, lawyers, and city workers. The sheriff of San Francisco, Richard Hangisto, flew to Miami to support the gays in their fight against Anita Bryant. But even in San Francisco, anti-gay tragedies occur, and the semi-tolerance of this sunshine ghetto is not representative of the general attitude toward gays in America.
I'm Jordan, the chairperson of the G40 Plus Club, and we are a group of older gay men who have gotten together. We started around 3.5 years ago, and our purpose, first of all, is to collaborate with research projects done by qualified people on patterns of aging among older gay men. Secondly, so we could meet and socialize and fraternize in a civilized, humane manner, which is not feasible through the means available usually for gay people to contact each other.
What do you think the main problem is for going out and being gay? What do you think?
I can only speak for myself. I think loneliness.
What would you say?
Acceptance.
Acceptance?
By society at large.
I think that there are so many things that are geared toward the younger gay person within the gay society, and older gay people feel left out, and rightly so, because they're just sort of ignored and pushed aside. And I think that this organization is very important, at least to me, because the peer group can meet together and share a lot of things together.
Do you think that romances come out of the groups? I mean, that at the same age is that?
Oh, I'm sure. Why not?
Oh, yes,
we're not dead yet.
We wanted to counterbalance some of this stress on being youth-oriented, really, to change the attitudes the younger people had about older gay people. A lot of them, since they know nothing of older people, have the impression that every older gay man is laboring to climb into bed with a younger one, that no younger one is safe in their proximity. And a lot of them find it a little devastating to find that most of us really don't want them if they're younger because there's nothing to talk about with them.
I think if you associate with them in different activities other than the bar scene, other than the cruising scene, you find that they'll accept you for what you are, who you are, and you may have an opportunity or not of going to bed with them. I think one of the good reasons for an organization like this is because your values tend to change as you get older, and much of the gay subculture is of no interest anymore. I've been through the bar scene. I've been through the bath scene. I've done the street cruisings. I'm not interested in those things anymore. So I'd much prefer an organization like this, and as you say, it leads to other organizations and other involvement. But I think if I become involved in other things than that so-called gay subculture, which is centered upon sex, if I become active in the gay movement, for instance, in a way that would satisfy me, I then could show a younger person that I care. Even though the problems they're facing today are no longer my problems, I can continue to hide as I did for 25 years. To stop being afraid of coming out.
My name is Ann, and we have a committee here in Boston. It's called Young Gay Youths, and the group is called Coming Out. The purpose of the group is to hope that kids will be off the street, to meet individuals in a place where there's not too many old people, people your own age, and, you know, to meet ladies and men, and this is the purpose of it. And for kids who are coming out, who don't know how to deal with their sexuality, I mean, it does help to some degree because everybody's open and we talk.
I started having romantic and physical feelings for men when I was about 11 years old. In fact, I rephrase that, for males. I was going to an all-male summer camp at the time, and I had a friend who was 1 year older than me. He was 12, and we had a very, very deep, intense type of relationship. It was not physical at all, though at times he suggested it. However, I was brought up in a type of family that you didn't even touch your genitalia. So, sex was definitely out of the question. I mean, after all, if I couldn't do it, he certainly couldn't. When I turned 15, I decided that I was definitely gay.
I have nothing against males, no faggots at all. As a matter of fact, they're my good friends. But I would like the company of a woman every once in a while. Let her know what it's really like, because I wish somebody sat down with me and told me what was the game of being gay.
Dr. Tom Reeves teaches contemporary politics at a black college in Boston. In February 1978, he came out publicly as a boy lover, despite heavy penalties in every state for sex with minors. Church and state force young people to have their first sexual experiences in a criminal atmosphere of guilt and shame. Tom Reeves fights to change that radically. Tom and his family of young friends and lovers live among the working class, where boy love is more accepted than by the repressive middle class. Reeves and the other members of the Boston Boise Committee fight with openness and great courage, since contention over the human rights of young people is the hottest gay issue in America today.
Well, yeah, I think the gay movement has said that we don't recruit children and that we're not interested in adolescents. Well, I'm interested in recruiting teenagers, and I'm interested in recruiting every gay teenager that's out there. I want him to know he's gay. I want him to be proud of it as soon as possible, as early as possible. I think if a teenager can know and be aware of his sexuality when he's 13, his whole life fits better for him than if he has to painfully struggle and find out when he's in his 20s. Also, I'm very happy to say that I recruit people away from the middle class, uptight, violent family. That doesn't mean that a boy would necessarily be exclusively homosexual, but that he simply wouldn't want to reproduce exactly the robot kind of family that he grew up in and was unhappy in. I'd like to see everybody rebel against that. I'd like to see that disappear.
We didn't cover the Lavia sex case.
Well, last December, here in the house, about 8 of us who put out the magazine Fagrag, which appears in Germany as well as in the United States and is a radical anarchist gay publication, were reading the newspapers about 24 men who'd been arrested in the supposed child molestation ring. Much of what was said in the papers was untrue. They had said that these men had raped 8-year-old children. Well, first of all, there were no 8-year-olds involved. It was all lies. There were 14 and 15-year-olds involved. And in fact, most of the cases had occurred years before, and no one had been raped. Massachusetts has the most severe penalties in the United States for sex between men and boys, that for each case of simply kissing or touching a 15-year-old, you can, in fact, receive life in prison. We formed a committee to protect the rights of the men who had been accused of child molestation. And we had a demonstration, and we marched into the district attorney's office angrily. And it was the first time in history, I think, in the United States at least, that a large group of men openly demonstrated for the rights of men accused of sex with boys. And then we began to try to organize the gay community around this issue. And I think the important story is that we, a group of radical faggots and boy lovers, have gotten virtually the whole Boston community behind us. All of the gay groups, the lesbian groups, women's groups, and many of the straight organizations are behind us. We believe there's a real witch hunt going on against homosexuals in Boston. The fact is that since Christmas, that's 6 months, over 300 men have been arrested and face trials just in Boston.
In 1977, December 8th, I'll never forget the day, I was woken early in the morning, and 4 police officers walked into my home, and they handed me a warrant and says, "We have a warrant for your arrest for child rape." Of course, I was astounded because I didn't understand what the charge was, because I knew that I never raped anybody, because my life is not built that way. I'm not a rapist. I'm a teacher of respect and dignity. And I've always taught that to anybody that I've ever came to know.
What can they hold against you? That they say you had sex with...
Yeah, a person 14 or 15 years old. This person is he's I think about to reach the age of 17. Now this goes back three years ago. I can get a life term. I can be incarcerated, imprisoned for a life term, depending on the whim of the judge. The minimum is 5 years. 5 years for making what? For making love? Sexuality. Let's talk about myself. I had sex with a man when I was 13 years old, and I continue to have sex with older people than myself. I didn't grow up to be a monster. I grew up to be a champion.
And you haven't been raped by them?
I've never raped. 14 and 15-year-olds, they're very sexual. What's the difference who they have sex with? Whether they have sex with another 14-year-old, or if they have sex with an 18-year-old, or a 28, or a 38. What's the difference? Sex is love. It's not hate. This is my biggest defense, that homosexuality is an act of love.
company. Why don't you come out? It's all right to come out. You'd like to come out. Even I could come out. You don't have to cry. It's too late to lie. You don't need an alibi. Reach for the sky.
In Hollywood, we visited writer John Rechy, who achieved world fame with his novel City of Night. In that book, he described his experiences as a male hustler. Rechy is camera shy, so we had to film him from the back on our tour of gay hotspots in L.A. Rechy's success is that he captures the reality of so many homosexuals.
I very much think that what so many people, homosexual and heterosexual, think are the perverse elements of homosexuality are actually the most enriching. And that a trap happens because of what I call heterosexual imitation, where because of the heterosexual influence, which is so pervasive from the very moment we're born, we tend to denigrate the special elements that make the homosexual experience enriching. And instead of calling them enriching and unique and good, we call them with the names that the heterosexual assigns them: promiscuity, outrageousness, all these things that to me are enriching, you know, even homosexuals put down. You even have homosexuals that are so opposed to promiscuity or hustling or any of the things that I've experienced or write about, to the point that they will actually cooperate with the police. I mean, we have this example here in Los Angeles, to arrest what I call the sexual outlaws, the homosexuals that do public sex. Now, I don't think that being able to have sex with 20 people in one day is anything to be ashamed of. I think it's something to be very proud of. And I don't mean physiologically. I mean just simply the abundance of sex that is open to us. And yet we're constantly having conservative homosexuals say that you know, we need to get married, we even want to adopt children, we want to join the army, we want to become policemen. In effect, the heterosexual is turned into a parent. And we're saying, look, we're nice children, and we're going to be just like you. I think that it is very special to be homosexual. And I don't want that kind of heterosexual shit put on me. I want to be able to live my life with its own enrichment. To me, the reason that promiscuity is revolutionary, you see, is because it confronts the archaic laws.
So, but what's different to bushes? I mean, it wouldn't be better if people come out of bushes and have sex in the streets?
Oh yes, oh yes, ideally so, because that would be like the black woman who began really the civil rights movement in the South by simply saying, you know, I'm not going to move to the back of the bus.
Do you think you're a very sexual person? I mean, are you looking for sex a lot, constantly?
Oh yes, oh sure, yes. To me, there's a certain beauty in the ritual, and I think again in terms of ritual. I mean, I've often described the kind of street cruising as a kind of ballet, but you know, you prepare for any kind of activity. I mean, if you're a dancer, you prepare your body, you know, you work hours on your body, and you dress yourself, and then you perform on the stage. And then you either get praise or not. In the sexual arena, you see, there is also the artist in one. I work out with weights, I get my body the way I want it, I decorate it in a certain costume, I choose the best light, and I choose the best mode. And I find it very, very similar to that kind of other performance.
ladies and gentlemen. Look at that. Isn't that nice? Look at those heels she's got on. Nice round of applause, folks. Give them a nice round of applause for this. I don't know you appreciate it.
What do you think about Mardi Gras? I mean, the gay aspect of Mardi Gras. When did it start? I mean,
well, I've never associated Mardi Gras with being anything but gay. It's a whole comic relief. If there was no gay element in New Orleans, the Mardi Gras would go to hell. Because all the imagination and all the people who do things out big are the gay people. You know, they promote it, they push it.
but the first kind of gay balls, I mean, have been raided as far.
No, that was a long time ago, and they should not have done it at a Baptist mission. It's where they had the ball. You see?
I have a little the impression, especially here at Mardi Gras, people are the most thing people are willing to do for their own liberation is to fuck, which is nice. But I mean, if it's the only thing, then
well, you happen to be in one of the biggest fuck fest we've ever had right now. You know.
You see, I defend Mardi Gras because for a lot of people, this is their first opportunity to come in contact with gay in a way that is positive, or at least in a way that they can relate to. The costuming, particularly on Mardi Gras Day, demonstrates this whole liberation thing that can't help but influence you if you're closeted. I think Mardi Gras is one of the great devices that pries people out of the closet, at least in this area of the country. But now, you know, they have to go on to develop a political consciousness. You know, they don't start out with that. That grows as they go through various experiences. And in the years I've been here in the Quarter, anytime we've had the opportunity to try to make an issue out of something, to raise the political consciousness, we did it. But it seems that you always need some sort of crisis situation in order to do political organizing. And the very best of those opportunities we've had was when Anita Bryant came to town this past summer, a few days after the election in Miami. And we knew that if she won in Miami and came here, that could cause a lot of problems. So we decided we'd put together a very large demonstration to meet her.
Mardi Gras in New Orleans is an annual orgy of freedom from anti-gay pressure in the American South. While here in Los Angeles, in one of the gayest centers of America, fascist tactics of police and vigilantes terrorize gays. The most far-reaching action of the post-Anita terror is the initiative of State Senator John Briggs, which would allow every gay teacher and school worker in California to be fired, and would allow the discharge of every school worker who supports gay rights. The popular vote of November 7th, 1978 could launch a witch hunt without parallel in the history of America.
Gay rights advocates were out in force this afternoon at the county registrar's office. They were there to protest the arrival of State Senator John Briggs. He was carrying thousands of petitions to put his anti-gay teachers initiative on the ballot. Gay supporters claimed that Briggs' people have misrepresented the intent of the initiative and paid money to get signatures, but Briggs says he doesn't know anything about that.
We have over 500,000 signatures on these ballots that we are presenting all over California for the people of California to make this decision.
In the Middle Ages, they burned witches. Witches were usually women who lived without men. So they burned the lesbians. And when doing so, they tied together in bundles men who loved each other to kindle the fire at the feet of the women. These were the faggots. And the story continues. Until the riots in Christopher Street, gay men had forgotten that their burning bodies had provided a torch to consume the women. No one had bothered to remind them. Their attempts and their failures had ignored that. When the men finally emerged from the bars and onto the streets of New York, they found that the women were up there as well. And our stories continue.
No more bricks! 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 No more bricks!
Unexpectedly, the California vote in November went against State Senator Briggs. Gays all over America were jubilant. In Hollywood and San Francisco, gays danced in the streets. But in Dade County, Florida, a gay rights bill failed again. Victories are only possible when the thousands of people stand up openly and work together. Those who fought Briggs didn't run for the closets at the first sign of hostility to hide in fear and shame like the majority of 20 million American gays. Victories must not lull any gay person into a sense of complacence and security. More liberal laws are almost meaningless. Laws which change today for the better can change back for the worse tomorrow. It's human attitudes which must change, and only gays themselves can alter the tradition that gays are sick, criminal, and subhuman. Anita Bryant's spirit is alive and well in America, but there are other threats. With liberal offers of a little bit of freedom, the system eats movements which take its bait. Increasing commercialization undermines and destroys true liberation. When gay people slip into a rosy passivity and choose to escape into orgy bars, baths, and dark toilets, they choose an exotic fantasy land far away from reality. Gay people must fight at the side of all repressed people. We must fight against crippling family structures and offer to the world new forms of living together. Our struggle has just begun, and until the end, it can be threatened by fascists of the right and the left.
You must remember this. A kiss is still a kiss. A sigh is just a sigh. The fundamental things apply as time goes by. And when two lovers woo, they still say, I love you. On that you can rely. No matter what the future brings,